Welcome back, everyone, to yet another interview. And today I have here with me an honored guest, Mark Healey, who is the creative director on the LittleBigPlanet games.
Hello.
Yes, he was a developer that worked on LittleBigPlanet through Media Molecule, and you can see his work inspired everywhere in the game. And if you somehow don't know about him, you will now. So let's start things with just a little introduction. Can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Well, I think you already done that for me. Yeah, my name's Mark Healey, or Marcos to my friends. Yes, I was one of the co-founders of Media Molecule, and I took on the role of creative director for many, many years. I think it's 17 years or something. So yeah, LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2 and Dreams. Basically, I was the creative director on those. But when we first started, we were a very small company, and I wore many hats actually. So I actually did quite a lot of technical art, but mostly design for LittleBigPlanet. And I've been doing it ever since I can remember doing things, making games. That is, as you can see, I'm sort of got a few years on probably most people that might be watching this. I've been doing it since sort of the 80s, I would say. My first love was a Commodore 64. That was where I sort of cut my teeth on the old 8-bit computers, and I've loved it ever since. How's
wow.
that?
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, honestly. And I just want to say, you were one of my heroes, because I picked up the game when I was 6 years old. And I'm sure you've heard of all the stories, but it's especially special for me to have you on here, as well as because I work with him closely, and this channel would not be possible. Everything we've done, archived with LittleBigPlanet, anything has all been possible because of this game. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I also wanted to ask you, have you heard about us? Have you seen the channel on your own by any chance?
Well, I actually first became aware of it because I still keep in touch with Alex Evans, who was the one of the technical directors at Media Molecule, and you interviewed him a little while ago, I believe, and he'd shown me that that video. So I looked at your channel, and I saw there was a whole bunch of interviews with people from my past. So yes.
Awesome. That is fantastic to hear. So what are your thoughts on people finding glitches in LittleBigPlanet, and what was your favorite, if you have one?
Oh, so obviously if they managed to break the game somehow or stop people from playing, then that was not cool. And I seem to remember there was one where something to do with the character spawning in the pod or something. So I remember we fixed that. But ones that the kind of glitches where people can exploit the game and do things that are cool, I love that stuff. Like people worked out how you could get more layers, for example. All that kind of thing, fantastic. That's the sort of stuff that I live for when I'm making things myself. So absolutely love that kind of thing. I can't remember how they did it exactly. It was something to do with sticking something to something else and then doing something at the time. You could shift them all back. Because I think when we originally made the game, there was pretty much infinite layers anyway. The 3 layers was a restriction that we sort of decided halfway through development, because it just made it a lot easier for level design and kind of felt right. Kept it a bit more sort of 2D-ish, but was still flexible enough that you could kind of do a bit of in and out gameplay.
Right.
So yeah, that's the one that springs to mind. I'm not sure what I can remember any others actually. Yeah, I mean, you might be able to remind me. Actually, probably better.
Well, that was there was this electric Sackboy glitch that Alex mentioned. where the community helped sort of cure people from that. You know?
Oh yeah, I remember watching that in the video that you did with Alex. Actually, I'd forgotten all about that until I watched that video. That was really cool. The only one I can remember was the layers thing, where people managed to work out how to get more layers.
Yeah, and then there was I think the most annoying glitch later on was the Nox glitch. Those DLC editor levels in the community, if you ever played those, if you saved it to your profile, I think it would, for certain people, it would cause issues because maybe too much was saved in their profile or it corrupted their profile somehow. So they would end up with this, like, cancer almost. And there was a way to cure it, but it wasn't found for a long time. So if you had Nox, you were screwed.
Yeah, I know that. Well, Alex talked about that a lot in the interview to you, didn't he? But I know there were some quite big challenges with using the save data and all of that jazz because of the various protocols that Sony had at the time. So it was quite limiting. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that something like that happened. Yeah. But I didn't really get involved in the programming in LittleBigPlanet. I did some prototyping early on. I actually did it in my Ragdoll Kung Fu engine, I seem to remember. But no, I focused much more on just design and art. LittleBigPlanet. Left the programming to the programmers that are like Alex and Dave, who are infinitely more talented than me when it comes to that kind of thing.
So let's see, I'm curious, why did the story mode tend to use materials that were not given out to players? I remember in the creative mode templates in LBP 1, you could find some of these, which became really popular amongst the community.
Did they? Did we use materials that you couldn't get?
Mm-hmm.
I seem to remember us having a golden rule that we wouldn't do that.
You guys did.
I'm sure that it's just that you didn't find them.
Yeah, you guys did.
Oh. Well, that's bad. We shouldn't have done that. I remember sort of having that as one of our golden rules that the story mode that we make has to be something that you can make in the create tools, because it's ultimately an example of what you can make, and there was to be no cheating. So I'm quite shocked and horrified to hear that there was some rogue materials in there. I'm going to hunt various people down and slap them.
Well, so there was this gray stone, the temples, right? There was that sort of like yellow-greenish stone material. There was a gray variant of it that was used in the temples template, but it was never given out to players.
Oh, that's naughty. Maybe it was like cunningly just tinted in some PC. Obviously, once we got to a certain stage, we were literally using the create tools to make our levels. But before we had it all working on, before we'd actually done all the interface side of that, we had a PC editor, which was, I think you could draw shapes from mouse and all that sort of thing. So maybe there's a few leftovers from that somehow found their way into the final game. I'm surprised, but that might explain that.
Yeah. If you could change something about LittleBigPlanet, what would you change?
We're talking about the first game, or in general, LittleBigPlanet 1, 2, and 3 here?
I would say 1 and 2, maybe, because you worked on both of those.
Yeah. Oh, blimey, that's... Well, in hindsight now, I suppose one thing that would be nice is if we'd have included some sort of ability for people to easily spin up their own servers, for example. So, when a big company decides to sort of shut the servers down, that there's an easy way for players to sort of continue it themselves. Something like that. No idea what I'm speaking about and wave my arms in terms of whether that's possible or not, but some very clever people have managed to sort of archive the levels and things anyway, I know, but it's a shame basically put it like this: if I was going to make another user-generated content game myself, I'd make sure that the servers are much more controlled by the community rather than by whichever big corporation ends up owning the game or something. So that it's kind of up to the community whether the servers live or die. So yeah, maybe something like that. But no, I mean, I feel off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. I mean, I'm quite happy with maybe the actual control of Sackboy could have been a little bit less floaty. I know that was always a sort of one of the negative comments that it got, is that the jump felt a little bit floaty. So yeah, maybe we could have increased the speed of the jump, made it feel a bit less woolly or something. But yeah, no, I don't know. I honestly can't. I mean, it's perfect. It's just perfect. It was perfect.
Do you think that LittleBigPlanet should receive another sequel?
Yes, absolutely. I get the impression that there's a desire for it with enough people, and I feel like the general franchise and idea of LittleBigPlanet could certainly soak up could deliver another sequel. I think I've said it in another interview actually, but with the dreams that we did after LittleBigPlanet 2, obviously we spent a long time doing it, but I was quite keen on actually having Sackboy as a central character in that, really, and having it like a LittleBigPlanet game that's 3D. But so yeah, I've got I love Sackboy and I love the LittleBigPlanet franchise. It's my baby, really. So yes. Not up to me. It's in the hands of other people for other things like that happen. I mean, maybe I could make a spiritual successor to it or something if it doesn't happen from the official route, and have to call it something different, like, I don't know, Tiny Huge World or something.
Little Big Universe, as Jim Noir put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously there are things out there now where people can do the sort of play, create, share stuff. You've got like Roblox, haven't you? And I've not even looked at what you can do in Fortnite, for example, but there's a whole sort of create community in there now, isn't there? And so there are other things out there, but yeah, it feels a shame that I feel like LittleBigPlanet was sort of quite pioneering in a lot of areas there. It feels a shame to not kind of come back and step it up a level and reclaim it, if you like. But yeah, I don't know.
No, it's fair. It's fair. Maybe a LittleBigPlanet 4 with Steve Big Guns or something. We always joke about that. But where did the name Sackboy come from?
I came up with that. It was just, he was made out of sack material. It seemed like I think there was a graphic novel. There was a graphic novel that I might have been reading, although I can't remember if that was a lot later, called Doom Boy. So maybe that inspired, putting a word with the word boy. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things to come up with. Yeah, it's called Sackboy. I guess that, you could argue that caused some sort of complications later on down the line, because obviously you can dress Sackboy up however you like. So in some sense you could say it's genderless, really, but his name sort of implies otherwise. So maybe that wasn't actually the best name, but then again, it's stuck. That's what it is. So there you go. I take full responsibility.
Well, see, that's funny, because LittleBigPlanet 2 cutscenes, right, with Da Vinci and Avalon, everyone calls him Sack Thing instead of Sackboy. Yeah, well, that would have been
yeah, somebody probably made that decision. This is not cool, that therefore he's a male thing. He should be genderless, and someone slowly crept that in, I suppose.
That's fair.
Top hole, sack thing, top hole! You've passed the...
So in Little Big Planet 2, we didn't have the info moon. But in Little Big Planet 1, we did. How come?
Oh, God. I actually don't have no idea. It may be if you remind me what was on the info moon, I might be able to work it out.
Yeah, so you had like profile information, you had access to news, so Tom and Spaff would publish news, I think, and it would show up there. Stuff like that, basically, just in kind of like a news hub where it's all kind of like easily accessible with your profile and news.
Yeah. Maybe that was something to do with wanting to try and encourage people to go to a website instead of getting that information in the game, or maybe it was just a lot easier to deliver that kind of information via a website than it was through the game for some various networking reason. Actually, that would be my best guess. Because there was LBP.me, wasn't there? I don't know if that existed in the first game or if that was something that came with LBP2. Maybe it's somehow tied to that.
Yeah.
Don't know. That's my best guess, I'm afraid.
That's fair. Let's see. Do you have a preference towards Little Big Planet or Dreams? And what are your thoughts on the communities revolving around those games?
Ooh. Well, I mean, for me, the perfect thing would be a bit of a marriage of the two, really. I mean, I think Little Big Planet 1 is better in a lot of ways in terms of it. It works as a standalone game, if you like. Whereas Dreams, you had to sort of, we had a campaign in there that was an example of what you could make, which I'm very proud of. I think it's very cool, but didn't have to quite have the same sort of the same appeal as the Sacko Big Adventure kind of story mode that we did. Don't know if that's due to having one central character that you take through the whole thing. So but I mean, so I think Little Big Planet in that sense. But with Dreams, if I was to take some elements out of Dreams and add them to Little Big Planet 4, for example, then I think it would be nice that you can make 3D worlds, but also still make your 2.5D things. I like that you can sculpt your own objects from scratch in Dreams, rather than relying on the library of objects that you had in Little Big Planet. I guess you could argue that some of the tools were maybe a bit too complicated for some people. Although, I'm not convinced they are that much more complicated. So, put it like this, the thing that never happened with Dreams, but that was on the cards, unfortunately, it never happened. It was something we should talk about a lot, was people actually being able to make standalone games with it. So, in Dreams, you could make an experience or a game or whatever, and then just like something like Unity or Unreal, create like a standalone thing that could exist on the PSN store or whatever. That, for me, would have been the ultimate goal of something like Dreams, and a kind of progression of Little Big Planet, really, so that people can actually make their own little experiences that they can show people in a truest sense of the word. It's not inside a walled garden. So yeah, not a very clear answer, I'm afraid, to your question, but I love them both for slightly different reasons. Because Little Big Planet was obviously, there was a team of us and we all had our own motivations for making it. But one of my big sort of motivations for it was making it easy for people to make games. I've always loved doing that myself. And as I said in my intro, I had my Commodore 64 back in the 80s. And I love the fact that you could just, you turn it on and it would say ready, with the cursor flashing, and you could literally straight away, if you knew what to type, you could make something and get things happening on the screen. And it always annoyed me that when the consoles kind of took over, if you like, the sort of home computers at that time, that it wasn't easy to make things on them. It was like suddenly made into this elitist thing where you had to have a really expensive development kit, or know the right people, or be in Sony's special club or whatever to better make a game for it. And I thought that was a real sort of crime against human creativity, if I'm honest. So yeah, big driving force for LittleBigPlanet, and especially Dreams for me, was that make it easy for anyone who's got this thing to make games on it. Got this amazing piece of hardware, PlayStation and all of the wonderful technology that's inside it. Just allowing people to consume stuff on it and not make stuff for it felt wrong to me. So I've actually forgotten what your question was now. What was your question?
It was, do you have a preference towards LBP or Dreams?
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, no, it's the simple answer. I love them both.
Yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair. Can you talk about the LittleBigPlanet 1 arcade pack?
Oh, God. What was in that?
So it was all the logic that we see in LittleBigPlanet 2, or at least most of it, that you were going to have as a DLC pack instead, but it became LittleBigPlanet 2.
But logic as in completely new gadgets, or just some kind of examples of things that have been put together to make a little microchip or something?
New gadgets. So like, for example, the anti-gravity tweaker, that was an arcade pack. And I think, just a couple of other like general new logic pieces that were in LittleBigPlanet 2.
I actually can't remember a thing about it, if I'm honest with you, but having said those things there, but vague little movements in my head somewhere that was probably an attempt to kind of complete the set of gadgets, if you like. So it was much more of just make wider range of games, because obviously there was always cunning ways that you could exploit things and do things that were seemingly impossible, which often involved quite laborious, tedious tasks. But it was probably an attempt to try and cover the range a bit more of all the things that people might want to do in their levels. That would be my best guess. Sorry about lots of guessing here, but it's so long ago, I can't remember. It's
all right. I will admit, these are some difficult questions. I told you we'd push hard with these.
So was there some content in that arcade pack as well, or was it literally just like, here's some extra gadgets? Wasn't there like an example game or something? Because when we used to do the DLC packs, there would normally be at least one or two example levels or something.
I think it was really just gadgets. It was never obviously released, but there's a syscall function that you could get in the game in one of the builds. It's one of the builds. It might be Deploy, I think, the Deploy build, where you can flip on a switch and it activates, that screen where it kind of, like when you get a DLC, it pops up with all the items from the DLC on the screen one by one. Yeah. You could do that with the arcade pack items.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I can only assume that we did that just to sort of try and complete the set of gadgets a bit more. Yeah,
that's fair. Can you talk about the DLC costumes that didn't make it in, like Papa Rappa the Rapper? Were there any unreleased concepts or any costumes that weren't approved that you could have had the choice of not adding into the game?
I'm not going to be able to enlighten you much there, as in it was a complete runaway train in some senses, as in there was a couple of producers at Sony. They were like our external producers for LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2, called Leo Cubbin and Pete Smith. They were our main sort of bridge to Sony, if you like. And I seem to remember they basically like, okay, these DLC costumes are great, as in people love them. And they went off on one, and they were getting I think they found another team to actually make them. So there would just be new ones coming through all the time. Oh, we've done this one, that one. And I honestly can't remember which ones got made and which ones were proposed. So yeah, Parappa the Rapper, tongue twister. Yeah, that's an obvious one because that's one of the Sony IPs, isn't it? So yeah, I don't know why that wouldn't have gone ahead. Seems like an obvious one. Maybe there was some legal issue there, or maybe Parappa the Rapper's like a flat character, isn't he? Like sort of paper thin. I seem to remember. Maybe something to do with that. But then again, we had a yellow head. Sorry.
Yeah.
We had the yellow head character in there, which was from the original prototype, and that was like paper thin, I seem to remember. So can't be a technical reason like that. Yeah, no idea. Maybe the original authors of Parappa the Rapper were like, no, we don't want this to happen. No idea.
Yeah, that's fair. How did the water beta go, and how was it? Who did you give it out to, and how are the levels?
The water beta?
Yes.
As in when we added the water functionality, you mean?
Yes.
So that came with the Pirates of the Caribbean DLC pack, was that right? Yeah, but I don't remember anything about a beta, actually, to be honest with you. Yeah, so apparently you're telling me that there was a beta build of that went out to some people. So
there was a water beta, and I think it was given out to PS Plus subscribers, essentially.
Wow. Okay. No.
Yeah.
That was something that was, no one told me about that. They probably didn't need to, because I was probably busy thinking about LittleBigPlanet 2 or something. I mean, when we released LittleBigPlanet 1, it was a big success. And when you have a big success like that, there's lots of people that just sort of like gather around outside the company doing various things, and it's impossible to keep track of everything that's happening. So, yeah, there'll be lots of things that you're aware of that I'm completely ignorant of, such as that, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine. It's completely. I mean, again, it's right. Like, people had their hands on different things, and we're focusing on different areas, so it's fair. I want to know, what was your reaction to the pod bus, if you've ever seen it? It was from Sumo Digital as a concept for LittleBigPlanet 3, specifically this alpha. What's your opinion on the design?
Well, I never saw it. But it sounds interesting. A pod bus. So is that like? What did it do? Was that a way of traveling to other players' pods or something? Like, what was it? Never seen it.
So it essentially looks like this. Click that link.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Oh, interesting. Doesn't look very safe. Looks like if it turns a corner, you're going to go flying out of the windows.
Yeah, so this replaced the pod entirely in the LittleBigPlanet 3 alpha. So this is what they were going to go with.
Oh, that would have been sacrilege, I think. Yeah, no, that would just be blasphemy to do that, I think. I mean, it's kind of cool design, I suppose, but yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to know why it's like that. Wonder what the logic was so that you've got more space to decorate, or that you could get a lot more players in there or something.
I think so, yeah, more decoration space, things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about the proportion of the PlayStation controller compared to the rest of it feels a bit irritating to me and not very pleasing. So interesting, but yeah, I think that's sacrilege. I mean, you can't look out of the back. The left side of that image, there's no window. I mean, that's already a disaster because the pod was deliberately 360 vision, which is what you'd want in space, surely. So the rocket boosters are in the wrong place. There should be a window there. And yeah, why has it got wheels? Why do you need wheels in space? I suppose you could land. Sorry, I'm getting hypercritical now. That's the first time I've ever seen that. I mean, at least it looks like it's made out of cardboard. I wonder if it's actually makeable, because the proper pod, the adamantine pod, is I designed that, and I actually made it in cardboard first before I modelled it in the game to make sure that it could exist in real cardboard. I wonder if they did the same with that. Possibly. Think the wheel up.
Maybe they might have handed off to the station, perhaps. I know Sophie Wickstrom did a lot of cardboard artwork for the LBP game, specifically PS Vita, stuff like that. So maybe they had her, by some chance, help design it. I don't know.
I'm curious to know how those wheels work and if there's some kind of axle or something involved there. Can't see the other side, so I don't know if they're actually wheels or whether they're like a tube. Hard to know.
Yeah, it might just be a tube. But yeah, it was never put into the final game, and that's that. But I'm curious. Let's talk about the creator pack a little bit. So why was it made a DLC instead of directly adding these items into the game? Was there ever going to be a second one released for LittleBigPlanet 1? Because it said Creator Pack 1, so you could assume there was going to be a Creator Pack 2.
Yeah, probably. Again, I can't remember. Maybe you can remind me what was actually in that. Were there extra gadgets and things, or was it just some like new materials? I actually can't remember.
So you had, like, for example, the angled, the magnetic key switch where you could set a radius. You had the angle ability. Okay. You had the water switches, like the bubble machine.
Okay.
And then,
so yeah, I'm not sure why that would have been a DLC pack as opposed to just updating the game. Maybe it was to sort of, because it's the same, kind of amounts to the same difference, really, doesn't it? As in, if people downloaded it and made levels with other people to play those levels anyway, if I remember rightly. So maybe it was just to sort of try and gauge how much of the community were like pure creators and would go for something like that. That's a possibility. You know how corporations love to get their various statistics and sort of data on their users and that kind of thing. It might have been something to do with that.
Yeah.
That would be my best guess, really. Mm-hmm. Or maybe that was just, for some reason, that was the easier way to deliver those things rather than actually patch the game. But I'm pretty sure that when any DLC that we had kind of involved patching the game anyway, as in, I think all the DLC had to be in the game, and when you bought the DLC, it just unlocked it, or something like that. If I remember rightly. Could be wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the EDATs would unlock the DLC. So if you didn't have the EDAT file for a DLC, it wouldn't work, and that's how.
So technically, same difference, really, isn't it? Like the game has. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I can only think it must have been to sort of try and gauge how much of the community was purely interested in creators, something like that. Might have been that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So Little Big Planet 1 had this score thing on your profile, the play, create, share score. Why did that get removed?
I wonder how that was calculated. Again, no memories of that, but I mean, I guess it could have been removed because people thought, well, people don't care about that score, or it was a bit woolly and it's using up, extra bit of bandwidth or something. No idea. That wasn't something that I had a hand in deciding either way.
Yeah.
So, yep, no idea. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. But I do know one thing that you'll have vivid memories of, and that's the info fridge before the info moon was the info moon. Why was there a fridge in the early versions of the pewter?
I think that was Alex. I think he just liked the idea of calling it an info fridge for some reason, as in, I guess in his head he imagined it as like fridge magnets, sort of like a silly version of a chalkboard or something. I think it's just as simple as that. And then somebody probably was like, no, that's just too mad. Let's make it another planet.
Yeah. No, it's fair. Going on a bit of a tangent. So I couldn't help but notice the Sackboy plush that you have in the background. I want to ask about the giant Sackboy on the sofa at Media Molecule. Do you know where that went, or if it's even possible to get that?
Oh, God. That might have... I've got vague memories of it, but that probably wasn't something that was like mass produced. That would have either been Sony just getting a few special ones made, or it could have been a fan made it and sent it in. We'd often get things like that. I mean, I remember one of the artists, what's his name? French dude, Thomas. Thomas, I think it was Thomas.
Thomas.
Yes, I think his mother made a really nice Sackboy plush that she sent in because she loved the character. So I'm not sure what happened to that one. Unless that's the one that I've got. I don't know. I lost track because there were so many, and we got sent some really hideous ones, by the way, that were sort of prototype ones that Sony commissioned various companies, and you could just look at it and you just be like, oh God, no. So there's this one. This one.
Yeah.
These are the ones that I've got. So this one I think was definitely something that you could just buy in the shops or whatever, wherever you got that from. And then there's this one, which looks a bit more like the real thing to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is one that you could buy or whether this is one that
It's funny because I'm getting that exact one in 2 days. It's the one that came with the Little Big Planet 2, I think, the 2010 one of the box releases.
Okay. So it was kind of like a limited edition then. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it seems nice. It's got an actual metal zip on it, and it seems, that's the one that looks most like the original design to me. I'm going to have to stitch his leg, though. He's got a little bit of a hole here.
Oh, no.
To get my needle cut out. What was your question? Again, I can't remember. Oh, the big one. Yeah, the big one. Yeah, no, I've got no idea. That was probably something that Sony did, like a few one-offs. Maybe there was some promotion that we were doing, some press thing or something. Or it's possible that someone at Media Molecule just made it. I mean, I remember Dave, who's one of the technical directors and the coder on LittleBigPlanet. He was one of his other hobbies, other than programming, was like crocheting and making things out of wood and stuff. And he was really good at that. So maybe he made it. It's quite possible. But no, don't know.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. I'm curious.
You should have stopped. should have stole it when I left, shouldn't I? I should have should have gone on a bit of a sneaky rampage and took lots of things like that.
Oh my goodness! Oh, that just reminded me. I don't know if you remember this. So I think it was GDC 2007. Do you remember that giant mushroom tree?
Got a GDC 90 shirt on actually from them.
Oh, nice. Yeah, do you remember that giant mushroom tree? The Little Big Planet mushroom tree that was on the stage. Do you know where that is?
Oh,
where did
God.
it go?
No idea. It probably, I wonder. It probably sadly got destroyed or something.
Oh.
But no, it might be lurking in some cupboard somewhere in Sony America somewhere. But yeah, no idea. I mean, I remember when that was when we did the unveil of Little Big Planet, and they were made for the stage. There was a tree, a football, and an orange. I seem to remember. Can't remember what they were actually made out of. Sort of like polystyrene or something like that. So yeah, no idea. They probably got burned or just kung fu'd to death or something. Who knows?
Snap made a joke that it was planted in Alex Evans' backyard. But I'm curious, how was it working with Steve and I? Can you give us a rundown on how Steve and I even got there, and if you thought he did a good job managing the community?
Steve and
Isbell.
Yeah, but was he actually at Major Molecule, you were saying?
So I think, I'm trying to remember, I think he was, I don't remember the exact details. I might have to check on his LinkedIn because I don't want to get it wrong, but he came in after Tom and Spaff, and he managed the community for 13 more years.
Unless he was working at Sumo or something. That might be possible. Maybe he was doing it from outside of Media Molecule, but
I think he was, yeah.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I actually don't know then. Because for me, my memories of the Little Big Planet community management at Media Molecule was Tom and Spaff, really. After that, I sort of lost track, if I'm honest with you. So yeah, I've got a feeling he must be someone that was external to Media Molecule. That sounds really bad of me. Sorry, but that's I can picture his. I can kind of picture his profile picture on Twitter or something, I think. But
yeah, how was Tom and Spaff? How were they as community managers? Do you think they did a good job?
I think so. I mean, obviously, the community would be a better judge of that than me. But I loved having them at Media Molecule. They're really fun characters. Really, fun dudes to hang around and do various escapades with. Spaff, especially, his sense of humour is legendary. But yeah, I mean, I love them. I just love them.
Yeah.
Whether they did a good job, I assume they did, because we never fired them. They just sort of left eventually. So, but yeah, you'd have to do like a community vote or something, I guess, to sort of get a proper answer there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, I'll tell him you said hi when I visit him in a week and a half.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Is that Tom or Spaff he's talking about now? Oh yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Say hello and give him a hug from me.
I'm curious. Yeah.
Isn't he
Double Fine?
Double Fine, yeah, that's right.
Yep, San Francisco.
Still there. I haven't been to San Francisco for a long while now. It was a bit of a regular jaunt for a long time. I used to go there pretty much once a year to go to GDC. But I've not been for a few years now.
Yeah. I'm curious, did Microsoft ever come to you guys to try and get Little Big Planet on their platform? Alex Evans said he'd want to put those rumors to bed, and that never happened. and there weren't any intentions to do that.
How can he say that? That's an outrageous lie. He knows it is, as in... What is he talking about? He loves telling that story about how Microsoft tried to steal LittleBigPlanet. I'm sure he does. I don't know how serious it was, but yeah, certainly when this is my memory anyway, which, admittedly is a bit fuzzy, but we'd unveiled the game at GDC, the one you were just talking about. So it was like 2007 or whatever, with the giant tree and orange on stage and all that. But we hadn't actually still officially signed with Sony, I don't think. They must have signed something because they funded us doing the prototypes. They probably owned it on some level, but there was something that my memory is that we could, in theory, have kind of chosen to go on with Sony or something, with another company. We might not have been able to take LittleBigPlanet with us, but as a team, basically what I remember is there was this guy from Microsoft that arranged to come and see us and take us out to the pub. He was sort of like whining and dining us. I forget his name. I guess his angle for most of the night, at least, was just like, you seem like a fantastic team. Just want to get to know you, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of the night, I remember we dropped him off in the taxi at his hotel, and in his kind of drunken stupor, if you like, it became obvious that there was something that he hadn't said yet that he was obviously tasked with from his Microsoft masters, that was actually to try and get us to go and sign with them. And then he was like, it was literally, in my memory, it was literally as he's sort of like falling out of the taxi, and he was like, oh, and by the way, if you guys were interested in sort of coming to sign with Microsoft or work with us, then we'd be really open to that. That's what I remember. That definitely, something like that definitely happened, and Alex knows that. I'm surprised it did. Maybe it's in reality that couldn't have happened or something. I don't know. So maybe that's what Alex means. But there was definitely an event where Microsoft made a half-hearted attempt to kind of come in and grab us in some way. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, he probably meant that you weren't going to go with that. But I'm curious, why did you leave Media Molecule? Do you miss the old Media Molecule, the new Media Molecule, or just Media Molecule overall?
Gosh, so it's like, how long did I leave? It's probably like 2 years ago now, isn't it? Time flies. But I kind of have to be careful what I say here, because I could get in various legal troubles. But I've been there a long time, 17 years or something, and we actually sold the company. I think we sold the company about 2 or 3 years after we formed it. So from then on, I was technically an employee, really. Although, because LittleBigPlanet was such a success, we were given a lot of autonomy. So it didn't really feel like there was any sort of, oh no, the corporate Borg is coming in and ruining everything, which is the classic story with when companies sell. So I was, I had a good time there for a long time. But after 17 years, we'd done Dreams. Dreams wasn't the massive success that it kind of needed to be straight away for it to justify the cost that it was. So that made things slightly more complicated in terms of just letting some mad person like me make decisions about what to do next. So I was becoming, less and less involved with what we were actually going to do and what the direction was and the games and things. And that just didn't interest me anymore, really. So, yeah, thought it was time for me to leave, really, and sort of let the new blood have a go and take over and do their thing. I quite like being able to do what I want, really, which is obviously a very luxurious thing to do in game dev, but I'm sort of fortunate enough that I could leave and afford to support myself for a few years and just do whatever I want, really. So that was, I thought, I'm not getting younger. Why not? I'll go off and do something completely crazy that no corporate company would sanely get behind, because it probably sounds too mad. But, that's the sort of thing that I enjoy doing. I would argue LittleBigPlanet was like that when we started, and it did become a success. So don't think that's necessarily a bad route for development to sort of take. But it was just time for me to leave. I just didn't feel like I belonged there anymore, sadly. But don't know. I probably mumbled too much there.
No,
but,
it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, it was just. I wouldn't say, oh, this person really annoyed me, or this thing was really getting on my tits, or blah blah blah. It was a combination of lots of things, and I feel like really it was just the universe, the cosmos, was telling me it's time to move on, do something else. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing now. I do, obviously I've got lots of fond memories. It was a fantastic time. LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2, especially the golden years, I'd call them. But then Alex left. Alex had left about a year before me, maybe, something like that. I can't remember. And Kareem had left. And, these were the people that I formed the company with. And I just, I had, it had become a very different company to what we started, basically, and that we had for many years, because naturally when key people like that change, then various dynamics and change and stuff like that. And I just I didn't really feel like I fit in anymore. So decided to open my parachute and let the wind catch me and take it wherever it wanted to take me, basically.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. I'm curious, did you play Sacko Big Adventure, and what were your opinions on Sumo's take on a standalone Sackboy game without UGC?
I did play it. I mean, I didn't play it all the way through. I was playing various builds before it was released, just to sort of, in case I had some sort of opinion about it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. I mean, it obviously is not a LittleBigPlanet game, because it doesn't have the play, create, share thing in there. So it's just the play side. And part of me feels that any game with Sackboy should have that in, really. I feel like that's what he's all about. But again, I can understand why Sony would want to do games like that with the character. I thought it was okay. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really play a lot of games, full stop anyway. I'm not actually a big gamer, which might sound a bit weird. I've always been more interested in making games and sort of, making tools so that other people can make things than actually playing them. And if you spend a lot of time on a computer doing that, then don't have a lot of time left to sort of play games. I do play a few, but normally the things that come out that are quite stand out and original or a bit odd or something. But yeah, I think Sumo did a general good job on all their sort of LittleBigPlanet related things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a very satisfying answer, but that's me trying to be honest with you.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well it did or how well it was received by the LittleBigPlanet community. I've got no idea, actually. But I imagine the meat of the community kind of probably feel like me, in that, Sackboy needs to be in this environment where there's things that are made by the community that he can experience or whatever. that feels like an important part of that whole franchise, for want of a better word, to me.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. I am curious. So, how do you think other companies like Tarsier and Sumo did with the LBP IP, specifically LBP Carding? What's your opinion on that, since it was more of a different take on the game with a racing sort of style?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of into the idea of that. If you, like I was just saying, if you're going to do a sort of spin-off or something, it's great that you can include the play, create, share aspect. So, okay, obvious spin-off when you have a successful character is some sort of karting game. Everyone knows Mario Karting, for example. So I think that was a cool thing to do. I mean, I think the actual tool, I can't remember what the actual tools for making things maybe ended up being a little less cool than they could have been, if I remember rightly. Can't remember what they actually settled on in the end. But I remember thinking that they should have made it. I remember when reviewing it when they were making it. I don't know if I ever remember even playing the final version, but because it was kind of, obviously you're making tracks that are like 3D, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I think they were sort of trying to go, how do we do this sort of 3D version of these tools? And I certainly remember suggesting that you just keep them exactly the same as LittleBigPlanet, as in it's sort of like a 2.5D slices thing, but then once you've made an object, that you can then place it however you like in the scene. That would have been the simplest way to sort of keep it familiar to people. So yeah, no, I was a fan. I was a fan of that. Certainly, I didn't really play the game much when it came out, so I don't know how well that sort of did or anything like that. But that, if you're going to do a spin-off of a LittleBigPlanet, that's the right way to go, in my opinion. Sure.
Yeah. Did you think about releasing the old design for Sackboy as a DLC or an unlockable costume like you did with Yellowhead in episode 1 or 2?
I don't think we ever did. And we never talked about that. Yeah, no, it was. I think the Kareem, the art director, probably would have boycotted that idea or something, because I think he really didn't like this. You see, you're talking about the one where the head kind of looks the same, but it's got like little kind of stumpy legs, hasn't it? Yeah. Kareem hated those legs, and he was right to push for what we ended up with, for sure. So. Yeah, no, I think you would have found that incredibly dissatisfying.
That's fair. And so we've heard a lot about the Metal Gear Solid pack, and I believe Kengo said you were the one who came back from vacation when everyone was banging their heads against the walls and brought up, hey, what if we added a gun to make things interesting? Can you talk about that?
Oh, God. Very, very vague memories. Yeah, so if I remember rightly, I think there was the conversation of like, well, it's Metal Gear Solid, Solid Snake has a gun, doesn't he? He uses guns, but that's not very LittleBigPlanet. Doesn't feel like right in the LittleBigPlanet universe. So I remember suggesting the paint gun, because it's still a gun, but it's fun. As in, and you can splat paint with it that feels very in the LittleBigPlanet universe. So yeah, I think I just suggested that, and people were like, "Oh yeah, that's fine, that's acceptable." So that was that, and that was I remember working on that pack actually, because I remember doing the intro level, I think, which had like a target, and if I remember rightly, but that was good fun, because that felt like a really a big game changer in terms of adding some gameplay to it that's on par with the grapple hook, for example, or something like that. So yeah, that was good. That I think it was really successful as well as a DLC pack. I think
it does. Yeah,
did really well. So yeah, that was.
Yeah, I'm curious. What was it like working with Disney for the DLC packs and costumes?
Oh, so I wasn't directly involved with making the costumes. I think I don't remember if that we did that in house. If we did, that would have been Francis who would have made those, and possibly Kareem would have sort of helped translate them, if you like, into Sackboy kind of language. But what I do remember certainly is there was a lot of back and forth, as in Disney are very what's the word? Very protective of their IPs, and they could be quite pedantic about particular details and things. So it wasn't a walk in the park for sure. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember any actual specifics, but yeah, when you've got a big company like that with their years old characters and IPs and things, they're very particular about certain points, that's for sure. I mean, luckily with LittleBigPlanet, we could get away with a bit more than maybe a lot of other games could, because there's the obvious, well, it's a craft world. We need to remake this character in craft materials and things. So there's automatically an explainer to Disney that why that makes sense. But still, there were definitely people that were talking a lot. There was back and forth. It wasn't just like, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. It was a very overseen process, let's say.
Yeah. All right, I have 4 questions about Dreams, and I might have a couple more about LBP, and then we'll do, and then I'll show you your Prezi, and then I'll do the outro. So can you talk about your favorite creations on Dreams?
Oh, God. One of my favorite creations in Dreams, annoyingly, never saw the light of day, actually, because it was made in-house by Steve Big Guns, who I'm sure you've heard of in the LittleBigPlanet community, or Dream community. He did the really awesome, racing game, basically. It was called Imp Drift. And it was kind of like a bit of a weird side level, I suppose, from the main campaign that we did, as in it was using the car that's at the end of the story, the kind of red Chevy or whatever it's based on, and it had art driving it, but that was just an excuse to use those graphics. But it was basically it was only one track. I think that's maybe why we didn't release it, because it probably needed more tracks. But he did such a good job on it. It was the game that I played the most out of all the Dreams creations, because it felt amazing, and it was really addictive, just trying to shave a few seconds off your time. It looks beautiful. I thought it was really polished. I thought it was really great. And for some reason, I couldn't persuade people to release it, which was quite frustrating for me, actually. But so that's probably one of my favourite creations, actually. But in terms of community stuff, oh God, I mean, I tended to like the stuff that was a bit silly or possibly crude, even. But one of the first things I remember really liking, I can't remember what it's bloody called now. It's done by this mad Scottish guy, I think. He used to do lots of funny animations, but it's like you had to walk in the woods. You just had to walk through the woods, get to one side, and then walk back again. And it had some really funny voiceovers in it, and it just made me laugh. I thought that was hilarious. I can't remember what it was called. I've got such a bad memory for these things. What else? There was someone did like a pogo game, didn't they? Do you remember that one?
I think so, yeah.
It might have just been called Pogo or something. It's sort of like a 2D thing where you had to keep bouncing and get through a thing. That was really addictive when playing that loads. So that was really cool. The films that were made, the film that I starred in, actually, I did a voiceover for it. Again, I can't remember the bloody name. I'm so terrible. Nagasaki's bell, something. Nagashi's bell. Was it?
Was it Noguchi's bell?
Yes, I think that's the one. That must be the one.
Yeah.
I thought that was good and impressive. God, what else?
I mean, so I'm curious, what maybe more specifically, what's your opinion? Because I know you mentioned like silly levels, right?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the meme levels and the meme creations on Dreams? And why did they take away that meme area where all the memes popped up from people?
I don't know why it was taken away. I mean, that probably would have been because at some point we had Abby was sort of, she'd kind of taken over sort of handling the community side of things, and she was doing the impies and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that was her and her trying to sort of rein it in or control it in some way. I actually don't know, because by that stage, to be honest with you, within Media Molecule, I was actually sort of taking a step back from Dreams, actually, and I was focusing on what the next steps were with Dreams, if you like, as in what was going to be the next upgrade to it, big upgrade to it, all that kind of stuff. So I was off on my own little world trying to think about that. So I didn't really have a big handle on what Abby was doing with all the community stuff. But yeah, I imagine that was something that she decided for various reasons. But I'm actually a fan of memes and all that personally. I thought that was kind of one of the things that was actually quite cool in Dreams, that people would do silly little memes and things. I was like, oh, cool, it's kind of like a meme machine. Awesome.
Yeah, did you ever see the meme levels in LittleBigPlanet too? Like Harlem Shake, Gangnam Style, TikTok by Kesha?
Oh god, there'll be a lot. I mean, the one, I couldn't really call it I mean, like, there were lots of the shark attack levels, weren't there? I don't know if that,
Yep.
I don't know if you'd class that as a meme or not, but I thought that was a whole fantastic phenomenon in the LittleBigPlanet world. The whole shark survival levels, they were really funny. And one that really still sticks in my mind from LittleBigPlanet actually was when someone did like a sort of weird Street Fighter kind of, it was like a Street Fighter game, but obviously with sort of 2D puppet, big cardboard puppet things.
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious. That's the ridiculous, because of the physics and that, the kind of predicaments that the fighters would get into, them is just hilarious.
Oh, sorry. So Eddie Hyman made a Street Fighter, but I think the one you're actually talking about is Mortal Kombat. Best Mortal Kombat level ever. That one was...
Yeah, maybe. I distinctly remember just watching a video on YouTube of some people playing it, and it's just so hilarious. It was brilliant. So, yeah, I was a fan. I mean, for me, that was actually one of the main points of something like LittleBigPlanet or Dreams, was that people could make some very stupid, silly things that would never see the light of day, or certainly wouldn't be delivered via some mainstream console normally. The fact that people could sit at home and just do these really sort of left field, crazy little ideas. And I'm a sort of believer that that's the sort of breeding ground for great new games, actually. So there was a bit of an ulterior motive there, but even just for their own sake, the fact that it's really silly and memey, I think I love all that kind of stuff. So I'm a fan.
Yeah. I think one thing that a lot of people want to know about Dreams is why wasn't multiplayer in Dreams ever a thing?
Well, it was on the cards. That is one of the things that I was actually sort of focusing on when I left, because it was decided that it wasn't going to get added in the end. But for me, that was a big missing ingredient from Dreams, was multiplayer. And it will probably, somewhere inside of me, there'll be a little bit of sadness that I take to my grave that never happened. So yeah, it wasn't in there because it wasn't allowed to happen for whatever reasons, but it was definitely part of the plan. In hindsight, I wish we would have just integrated that from the start, really. But we didn't. So there you go. But yeah, I was a big believer that would have been fantastic. Because then you know, people could have made multiplayer games that were really stupid and funny. And that would have been great.
Yeah.
To be,
What would you say was your favorite voice actor in Little Big Planet 1, 2, and 3? And what was your favorite villain in the franchise?
oh, blimey, voice actor.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to have to be Stephen Fry, I'm afraid. You know, I was so chuffed when I found out that we could get him for Little Big Planet 1. It was just perfect because I think, what was it? I think have you ever read the Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy books or seen the films? Yeah. The books are great, but there was a film, sort of the last film that was made, sort of modernish one, but that's going to still be 20, 30 years old now, but which wasn't great, but Stephen Fry was in that as the voice of the, you know, of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book, and that was just fantastic. And those little moments when that comes up and it has those sort of infographics, to me just felt like, oh, this is, in terms of tutorials and things for Little Big Planet, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could get him? And, you know, like a week later, it was like, oh, by the way, yeah, we've got Stephen Fry. So I was really chuffed about that. Got to meet him briefly as well when we went up to do the recording sessions. So, yeah, definitely him. In terms of favourite villain, maybe that's Stephen Fry. I think he's a bit of a villain in some people's eyes now. Did he annoyed some people, didn't he, recently? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'd hope he wouldn't.
No, I mean, I love him. I think I'd love whatever he says and does.
Yeah.
In terms of the villains, well, the Negativatron was cool, wasn't it? That was Little Big Planet 2.
Yeah.
The sort of Hoover, essentially. And that the idea for that actually was Rex Krull, who did a lot of the graphic design and stuff for Little Big Planet 1 and 2. Yeah, that was his idea, and it was based on the idea that I thought was genius, is because I had the same memory of like when he was young, you know, in his bedroom trying to do something creative or play a game or whatever. His mum would be outside with the Hoover in the room, and you know, so I've got a Hoover up, and it would always distract him from what he was trying to do or whatever, and it was kind of linked to that. I thought that was really funny. So I think the Negativatron is my favourite.
Yeah. What's your favorite story level in each LBP game?
Good question. I think in Little Big Planet 2, I love the one with I can't remember his name now. Was it Higginbotham or whatever? The really trippy one.
Yeah.
The one where the guy just sounds really stoned. Sort of
Gotham. Yeah.
Inspired by the With Nail and I film. Have you ever seen that? There's the dude at the end of that who brings in all the, you know, naughty substances and things. He's like, oh, this will tend to make you very high. It was kind of inspired by him. So yeah, I love that level because it just made me laugh. And from the first game, probably the first level, actually, in the country, the whole sort of country gardens thing. But maybe because that's where it's got a very special memory for me in terms of that was kind of the first level that we made, if you like, that kind of helped define the flavour of the rest of the game, really. And that background, actually, the English Country Garden, I remember I made the first version of that because it was literally based on my back garden of my old house where I was living at the time. I took a bunch of photos of the brick wall and the fence and all that sort of stuff, and I took that in and used that as my direct reference to make that.
Oh, wow.
Garden. So it's kind of got a bit of a special place in my heart, I suppose. So yeah, any of the English Country Garden levels. I think there's 3, isn't there? But I can't remember right. So yeah. There you go.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great choices, and I agree with you. I think the gardens, was amazing. Just like that's what brought everyone into the game. You just enter the gardens, and everyone's just immediately hooked. But so let's see here. So I have last 2 questions here. I'm gonna ask the first question, and then I'll show you this thing that I'm so eager to share with you. And then I'll ask the second question, and we'll do our outro. So, and these are kind of unrelated to LBP, but A still wants to ask them.
Okay.
Who is better, Messi or Ronaldo?
Who was the first one?
Messi, Lionel Messi.
Oh, Messi. Oh, Messi. Absolutely, Messi. I have to admit, I'm not a huge football nerd or anything like this. But my son, he plays football and he's much more into it. But my other half, she is Argentinian. So if ever Argentina play over here, which they did a few years ago, it was the America's Cup, I think that's what it was called. I get dragged along. So I actually saw Messi up close and saw him score a goal, and yeah, he's a magician. He's an absolute magician. And this is from someone who doesn't even really, know much about football, but I saw him do his moves with that ball, and he's just a genius. So,
wow.
See, yeah, all the way.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark Healey, creative director on the LittleBigPlanet games. It was an absolute pleasure having you on for an interview. You have shared some valuable insight into various aspects of the creation process behind LittleBigPlanet and all of the wonderful things that stemmed from it, such as dreams. And LittleBigPlanet has been a major staple in my life and many other people's lives, and you've touched us all in wonderful ways with LittleBigPlanet. So thank you so much for your work on the game, and if the opportunity arises in the future, there might be a part 2 or a part 3. You never know. So we'll see what time holds. But yeah. For all you guys out there, make sure to stay tuned. We have some very special interviews coming up in the next week. We will be taking a week break from interviews, so we'll be returning shortly after that. And the one word of encouragement I would give to you all out there is to keep LittleBigPlanet in your hearts. All right, we'll see you next time.